Hey, wake up. It's Means Morning News. Just after 11 a.m. on the East Coast, I'm the newsman, Sam Sachs. It's the Friday show, which means I have to get out of here before noon because the studio turns into a discotheque. Yeah, if you hear the Bee Gees start blasting, it means I'm too late. Nearly 10,000 structures are now estimated to have been destroyed by the wildfires burning around Los Angeles, still uncontained due to the high winds and dry conditions. Roughly 35,000 acres have now been scorched, and the death toll has increased to at least 10 people. And economic damages could be north of $150 billion. This disaster is proving that the dangerous new world created by climate change isn't something that will materialize in the future. It's here. We're living in it, and we're not prepared for it at all. Unless you're a reactionary, in which case this has nothing to do with climate change, and the wildfires have just confirmed your priors about immigration and minorities. Right-wingers have focused on the LA Fire Department's chief being a woman to accuse her of being a DEI hire, essentially saying she was only given the job to promote diversity. Matt Walsh, the freak conservative who is more obsessed with people's genitalia than like anyone else in the world, blamed the fires on DEI. He posted, quote, "Los Angeles deliberately set out to exclude white men from becoming firefighters, and now they don't have enough firefighters to prevent their city from burning to the ground. DEI is a cancer that destroys everything it touches." Yeah, that's not true at all, but keep fucking that chicken, dude. LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley is actually a 22-year veteran of the department, whereas Matt Walsh makes a living selling plushies of himself in a diaper to children. He'd shit his pants if he was ever in a fire. Donald Trump Jr. lifted his head off the mirror to also tweet about this nonsense. He claimed, quote, "Can we rename DEI to DIE, since that's what seems to happen to the people downstream of those who place woke virtue signaling far above competency?" Yeah, because this would never happen in a place where white men are in control, like Texas, where nearly 250 people froze to death a few years ago because qualified white men deregulated the state's energy grid. There are now also theories circulating that undocumented immigrants started the fires in order to loot people's homes. This is from tech investor doofus Sean McGuire. Quote, "There are gangs in LA deliberately starting fires so that people evacuate and then they can rob their homes. This is happening at a large scale, at least 100 robbers, likely the Chilean crime syndicate." When asked for evidence for this claim, McGuire basically said, "Trust me." Quote, "I have close ties to the LAPD, but we'll leave it at that." Yeah, you'll leave it at that because you just made it up. Out of control infernos threatening the most populated county in the entire United States is bad enough, but now we've got fascists seizing on this tragedy to advance their own agenda of violence and dehumanization. Moving on to other news, even more Democratic capitulation to the Trump agenda in the United States Senate. On yesterday's show, we reported how 9 Democrats led by Senator John Fetterman were going to assist Republicans to advance a dangerous anti-immigration bill. The Laken-Riley Act destroys due process for migrants, including Dreamers, and it empowers far-right state officials to seize control of federal immigration authorities. Yet it had received the support of more than 40 Democrats in the House. And in the Senate on Thursday, 32 Democrats voted in favor of cloture to allow the bill to advance. 32. So way more than the 9 who initially said they would do it. Only 8 Democrats and independent Senator Bernie Sanders voted against cloture. Some Democrats said that they supported cloture in order to open up the bill to be amended, but with Republicans in the majority, they won't allow amendments, so brilliant strategy once again by the Democrats. I'll have another story on capitulation later in the imperial core, although I'm beginning to think this is less about capitulation and more about Democrats just voting for things they like. And finally, Greenlanders are weighing in on President-elect Donald Trump's threats to annex them, and they're not down with the idea at all. Asia Chemnitz, who is one of Greenland's 2 representatives to the Danish parliament, told the New York Times, quote, "I've seen the American system. I know how harmful it can be for equality." Times also spoke to a nurse from a town in Greenland who had this to say about joining the U.S., quote, "We would lose many benefits. We have free education grants, free healthcare, and free medicine. Everything is free here in Greenland. I know they don't have that in the U.S. Everything is free over there, huh? Free, you say? Okay. Any chance Greenland is in need of an English-speaking newsman? Major labor unions know the best way to survive another Trump era is to unify together. And this week, it was announced that the Service Employees International Union, with its nearly 2 million members, was affiliating with the AFL-CIO and its more than 12 million members who belong to more than 50 different unions. This brings the 2 powerful labor organizations back together for the first time since 2005, when the SEIU previously left the affiliation over a difference in strategy. This time it appears the unions are in lockstep. They see the unification as necessary to support multi-union, multi-sector labor struggles and as necessary to resist blatant attacks on working people that are going to come out of the Trump administration. Talking about things like the possibility of mass deportations of undocumented workers, cuts to social welfare programs, threats to fire federal employees, rollbacks of investments in green energy and green jobs, and of course the DOGE Commission, which is going to try to slash government spending. These are all threats made worse by Democrats botching the confirmation vote of Lauren McFerrin to head the National Labor Relations Board, which would have preserved a number of pro-labor decisions through 2026. Instead, Trump is going to be able to remake the NLRB as soon as he takes power. Unions should realize by now that they can't depend on the Democratic Party for their survival. One way this new 15 million member strong union affiliation can really scare the ruling class is by getting on board with the UAW's call for a mass general strike on May Day, 2028. House Republicans made clear what their top priority is. The very first bill they passed this new session was to strip due process from migrants. That was the very first thing they did. The second thing, shield Israel from any punishment for international war crimes in Gaza. House Republicans approved the Illegitimate Court Counteraction Act. It imposes sanctions on members of the UN's International Criminal Court who attempt to investigate, detain, or prosecute any citizen from a foreign ally that is not a signatory to the court, which is basically Israel. The sanctions and visa restrictions would apply to members of the ICC and their families. The last time the U.S. sanctioned the ICC was not too long ago, actually. In 2020, Trump did it when the ICC announced a probe into war crimes committed by U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan during the global war on terror. Those sanctions were repealed when Biden took office, but as soon as the Hague-based court started probing Israel's genocide in Gaza, Republicans and some Democrats demanded to bring back the sanctions. And especially in November, when the ICC issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant. 45 Democrats joined Republicans to approve this ICC sanctions bill, showing that liberal support for the ongoing genocide in Gaza extends beyond just support for the Biden presidency. Already on the books in the U.S. is the American Service Members Protection Act, also known as the Hague Invasion Act, which authorizes the president to take any measure, including military force, to protect U.S. troops and elected officials from any ICC prosecutions. Something tells me that law could become relevant over the next 4 years, as Trump has already threatened to use illegal force to seize land in Panama and Greenland, and he's not even the damn president yet. So yeah, as I'm always saying, I look forward to joining the Hague invasion on the side of the Hague. Yeah, so the rich dicks had a couple of weeks reprieve while we were on break, but no more. Time to get back to the important work at hand here. Thanks for all the nominations on social media. We're going to start asking for the rich dick nominations on Blue Sky instead of Twitter, so that we're not enriching Mr. Rich Dick himself, Elon Musk, every time we post. And we got a nice response from everyone over there on Blue Sky. Some of the nominations included conservative actor James Woods, who, according to Game Buddy, burned his house down with a crack pipe and blamed the wildfires. Huge, if true. But I know Mr. Woods is very litigious, so I'm just going to say this is clearly parody. Okay? Clearly parody. Strong nomination, though. Stewart and Lydia Resnick were also nominated. They're the billionaire couple that controls an enormous amount of California's public water supply, which they divert to their agribusinesses across the state. It's estimated that the Resnick's properties consume 150 billion gallons of water a year, which is unsustainable as climate change creates drought conditions and wildfires. So that's another strong nomination. Also got nominations for various home insurance CEOs whose thirst for profits have led them to cancel policies for thousands of people in California over the last year, many of whom just lost their house in these wildfires. LA Mayor Karen Bass nominated. Not sure how rich she is, but after looking at how much money she approved for the LA Police Department's budget last year, I'll allow her nomination. And here's a nomination for the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, Pierre Poilievre, who may soon become the new Prime Minister of Canada. I'll admit I don't know much about this guy, like how to say his last name, but I'll take your word for it that he sucks, and he's now officially on MMN's radar. And finally, a nomination here for Elon Musk, of course, who, according to Chris, has indeed done enough unhinged bullshit to receive the dishonors again. Musk's latest being hosting a Twitter space conversation with a Nazi from the German AfD political party, where the two just gabbed the whole time about how Hitler was actually a socialist. This man has gone full-blown Nazi. But in the interests of injecting some new blood into these proceedings, I'm going to pass on Elon Musk this week and instead pick the guy who very nearly had a chance to beat up Elon Musk in the octagon. Yeah, I think you know who I'm talking about. The first rich dick of 2025 is Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah, I had to go with the Zuck here. After his move this week to bend the knee to Donald Trump and reactionaries by relocating the company's content moderation team to Texas and loosening up a lot of the restrictions on dehumanizing minority groups on the website. The Intercept obtained internal documents from the company showing just what kind of posts are now permissible. They include comments like, quote, immigrants are grubby, filthy pieces of shit. And quote, gays are freaks. And quote, look at that tranny, when referring to a picture of a 17-year-old girl. Yeah, that's the sort of free speech that Zuckerberg believed was missing from Facebook before. Also now permissible, sweeping racial stereotypes, like saying, quote, these damn immigrants can't be trusted, they're all criminals. Or, quote, I bet Jorge's the one who stole my backpack. After track practice today, immigrants are all thieves. Or, quote, Japanese are all Yakuza. That's in addition to all the new ways you're now allowed to insult LGBTQ people on Facebook. According to 404 Media, the content moderation changes have sparked a backlash among staff at Facebook. The company is also allegedly deleting internal criticism of the move to appoint Trump ally and wife abuser Dana White to Meta's board. But like with any rich dick, at the end of the day, all Zuckerberg cares about is preserving profits. And it's more likely than not that these changes to Facebook are less about Zuck's own politics, which, trust me, are dog shit, and more about trying to curry favor with the government and beat pending litigation. As FTC Chair Lina Khan recently noted, Facebook is currently being sued for illegal monopolistic practices. And this could be an attempt to secure a sweetheart deal from the incoming Trump administration to settle it.
It is true that the FTC has been very successful, including in its ongoing litigations against Amazon and Facebook. And so it's only going to be natural that those companies are going to want to come in and see, can they get some type of sweetheart deal? Right? Can they get some type of settlement that's cheap, that settles for pennies on the dollar, and lets them escape from a liability finding in court?
Do you see that happening? Is that what you think is happening?
I hope it won't. But again, I can't predict that. And we are set to go to trial against Facebook this spring, against Amazon in fall of 2026. Of course, they would want a sweetheart deal.
I think she's onto something there. In defending the moderation changes this week, Zuckerberg went on to insult many of his users. He claimed that, yeah, people might leave the site as a result of this, but that's only because they're, quote, virtue signaling. Buddy, as someone who hasn't been on Facebook more than 7 minutes in the last 15 years, I can assure you it has nothing to do with virtue signaling. Unless the virtue I'm signaling is website operability and usefulness, because Facebook is trash, and I honestly don't even know how anybody still finds it entertaining or useful. It's just endless slop. Zuckerberg has been going through a personal identity crisis for years now, hoping to shed his image as a super dork, and it appears he's finally settled on an authentic character for himself, a rich dick with a perm. Okay, friends, the show ends today with a sunrise from Washington State. It was sent in by Raven on Duwamish land. Enjoy. Thank you, Raven. Show's over. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the team behind the scenes. Please sign up for Means TV if you haven't yet, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. One day capitalism will fall. Till then, we're going to be right here. See you next week.